I want you to picture the sweet, soft skin of your future baby. How delicate it is, how pure it is. The last thing that we want on that beautiful new skin is a rash or irritation. But it can be very common for our little ones since their skin is so sensitive. And typically when it happens, we're told to use products with 1,000 ingredients that half the time we can't pronounce, or worse, a steroid cream. But what if there was a solution that only had 3 simple, natural ingredients that actually come from the earth, that could clear up something like eczema on your baby's skin in just 1 day? Hours, in fact. Would it maybe give you peace of mind to know that what you're putting on your baby's skin and therefore into their body is pure and natural and something that you can pronounce easily? Well, I've found the solution, and today's guest, Shubhangini Prakash, developed it at her company called Feather and Bone. After her son's severe battle with eczema and Cradle Cap, she decided to go back to her Indian roots. She pulled from the earth, and she healed her baby's skin for good. Listen in to learn the importance of knowing ingredients and how she can help you solve this problem for your future baby. You're listening to the Mamas in Training podcast, giving aspiring and expecting mamas guidance and community from moms who have been there. And I'm your host, Jessica Lorian. But I'm actually not yet a mom. An autoimmune disease has delayed my journey into motherhood, so I've made it my mission, while I heal, to learn with you all about motherhood, so that together we can be as prepared as possible. And in today's episode, we're going back to basics. Simple, clean ingredients. 3, in fact, are all that you need to heal your baby's skin. But first of all, what is eczema? And what is Cradle Cap? And why the heck are our babies so prone to both of these? Shubhangini is here to teach us today and to explain how she solved this problem for herself and her son, and how you can too. This episode is sponsored by Boom Boom Blowout Bodysuits. Picture this. You're out for a day of errands with your baby. They've already soaked their fresh diaper and the extras you brought, but after a quick change, they're finally sleeping. So you grab yourself a quick coffee, but then they wake up screaming. So you pick them up, and what is on your hands? It's a blowout. There goes the last diaper, the baby's clothes, and your own clothes. Well, with Boom Boom Blowout Bodysuits, diaper blowouts are covered. Literally, the entire back of each bodysuit contains waterproof polyurethane laminate fabric that is bonded between 2 layers of super soft, unbleached organic cotton, making blowouts no longer a stress. Trust me, I saw it in action, and it's amazing how strong these bodysuits are. So this Mother's Day, treat yourself to less stress and let Boom Boom Baby Company cover that mess by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code MAMASPOD25. That's MAMASPOD25 for 25% off at checkout, because nobody has time for a blowout. And now, on to the show.
I did not end up going to too many classes. Everything was pretty ripe for me. Like I didn't know from head to toe. It was just really learning as you go. I hadn't watched baby books. In my mind, it was kind of like, look, people did it for generations without stuff. I'll be fine.
Yeah,
like that was sort of my mentality.
do.
I don't know if that was smart or not, to be determined. But that's kind of how my approach is to motherhood. I was talking to my mum. My mum lives internationally, and we were video chatting, and I had noticed this like little red patch on the side of my son's forehead. And at first I didn't really make much of it. I was just like, oh, I don't know, it'll go away. Like, so it's something, basically. Didn't really put much stock on it. And I think at that point it had been like 2 weeks when I asked my mum, I see this thing on his patch, like, what is it? And she kind of freaked out, saying, wait, you haven't taken this seriously? Like, what are you doing? That looks like baby eczema. You need to call the pediatrician right now. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just a little bit taken back. And my son at that point was probably like 2.5 months old. And it was still COVID time. So this is like, we're talking November, December 2020. And a lot of the doctors were doing like the televisits back then, which can be really kind of hard as a mum because you think the doctor needs to physically see the baby.
Right, exactly.
So we did the televisit. The doctor said, yes, it's eczema. I confirm it. I'm going to prescribe steroids. Now, for me, that was like a big, whoa, steroids. Like, that's really intense. He's, 2.5 months? He really needs steroids. And she was like, yeah, he does. So she prescribed it. It was just like a small patch, like the size of maybe like 2 quarters, 1.25, like that big, not terribly big. And I was pretty hesitant. So I decided I was not going to listen to the doctor and said, okay, I'm going to research this. So I went to my best friend Google and looked at the forums, asked in the mummy groups. A lot of them were recommending coconut oil. So we went and bought the cold pressed coconut oil. Yes, it did not work. So at that point, I think we're talking the eczema is about a month now. It's become a little bit big, but not that much bigger.
We'll put in a little bit of a caveat to this conversation and just say, of course, use Google as necessary and, don't completely trust it all the time and check with your pediatrician and all of these things. But this was your experience.
Exactly. So we grudgingly went and picked up the prescribed steroid cream and we put it on and it dried it out. So for those who maybe not gone through baby eczema, for my son, it was just like a red patch that looked flaky and blotchy, basically irritated skin, right? Like that's what it looked like. And so what the steroid cream did was it dried it out. So it looked like the same eczema patch, but just dried out. So like really flaky. And then it just stopped growing. So we did the treatment as the doctor had recommended, did the 6-7 day treatment, what it was, and then stopped using it. And then guess what? The eczema came back. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, we're going to do the treatment again. And we did the same thing. And this time, not only did it come back, but it grew faster. And so it became bigger. And so after the second round, this little blotch that was, the size of 1.25 became the full left side of his face, essentially, like a long stick near your ear, essentially. Yeah. I'm getting the indication that it's not irritating my son yet, but it definitely looks concerning. My cousin, who is a doctor, specializes in, skin allergies and stuff, said, well, you need to figure out the cause. And, she also said, yeah, unfortunately, steroid is all you can do. I am someone who is ingredient obsessed. I'm a formulist by profession now. And I started reading about a lot of different ingredients and, why you get eczema, really what's going on with the skin to cause this reaction. And I discovered that these specific 3 ingredients that I was going to formulate really ease the eczema and the irritated skin. And so I concocted it and made it. Neat to point out, my mother told me I was insane to make my son a guinea pig. But we put it on and 4 hours later, I kid you not, it was gone. So wow. I texted my cousin and I was like, guess what? It's gone. She could not believe me. So she's like, send me a picture now. So I sent her a picture and she was like, oh my God, this is a magic bomb. You need to send it to me.
Seriously? Oh my gosh.
I promise you. And I actually sent her because with photos, they're time-stamped, right? So I sent her the timestamp, look, I'm not lying.
It's the truth.
This is legit.
I didn't use
So that,
Photoshop, right?
yeah. Well, you could, yes, but my cousin believes that I would be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
What we discovered was that my son's skin got irritated because of my husband's beard, because he would give him a lot of hugs and
Oh.
cuddles. And, everybody knows baby skin is sensitive, but the reason it's sensitive is because their skin isn't fully developed. So all the layers that we have, that we exfoliate away, babies don't have any of it. And so then, something as rough as a beard, or even though he takes care of it,
Yeah.
it can irritate their skin. So sadly my husband had to stop cuddling.
Oh. Now, I'm sure many people might know this, but for people who don't know, what is eczema?
The simplest answer is irritated skin. It's when your skin gets agitated by something, like in my son's case, it was my husband's beard, and it just causes the skin to just get itchy and dry and irritated. It's irritated skin.
I want to also talk about Cradle Cap. Did Cradle Cap happen to your son as well? Or was this just...
Yes. So again, this was something that nobody had told me about. Bit weird. Didn't even know what it was. We had gone for the annual checkup. My son was under a month at that point, maybe even 2 weeks. And for my son, it started on the eyebrows, and it's a flaky skin. So just to give people what Cradle Cap is, baby skin isn't fully developed. And so sometimes the skin produces really fast. And so that shows up as flakes. And you often see it on the eyebrows and their scalp. So this is usually in their hair where you see it, where there's so much of the oil production that it kind of shows up as flakes. It's pretty ugly to look at, actually, like Cradle Cap. Like, it looks more ugly than it has sort of like an impact on your child. Like, it doesn't irritate them, it doesn't itch them, it doesn't hurt them. It's just really, really freaky to look at. She recommended to use castor oil, to just rub that on there and it'll go away. Again, it wasn't working, and I used the same concoction that I had made for my son, and it went away in, I think, about a day or two.
Wow.
And didn't come back.
It's so inspiring that you truly had a problem, you needed a solution, and you went back truly to your roots, because I know you were born in India. Well, your roots are all over the world, but you were born in India, grew up in Dubai, went to school in the UK, went to grad school in Boston, came to New York City. I mean, you've been all over the world.
Yeah.
But through the Indian culture that's ingrained in you, ingredients are truly the root of who you are, right? And so what you've created has been inspired by this ancient Indian tradition of using these natural products.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the basics of like Ayurveda and yoga, where it's going to the root of the issue, like what's really the problem that you're resolving. And and then I'm going to refer to like Coco Chanel, like less is more, right? Like, you don't need to have so many ingredients. Like, the solution doesn't need to be complicated, and then quality ingredients, then your problems or whatever it is goes away. I like to use caprese salads as a good example of this, because everybody knows a caprese salad is tomato, mozzarella, and a basil leaf. Maybe you can sprinkle salt, maybe you put some balsamic, but it's predominantly just those three ingredients. And it's amazing how many horrible caprese salads I've had, right? Because you can't really mess this up, right? Like, you don't have to have amazing chopping skills. There's no cooking involved. Like, it's really just slicing and placing.
Yeah.
But what makes a good caprese salad versus not comes down to how tasty your tomato is, how fresh your basil is, how well the mozzarella has been, how it's been made. I don't know how cheese is made, so I'm just going to see the process for the cheese. I don't know, but like, it's the three simple ingredients, but if they're not quality, it's just going to, like, it's not going to taste good. That's why, like, quality ingredients, the root, the simple, it makes a difference.
That's such a perfect example. And that's what you've created truly is, as you say, simple, pure, honest skincare. And it's really to help, you say, to help the skin shine. I would almost challenge you and say that I think your product is designed to help the skin heal because, it's not just, it's not about beauty. I know that you've gone through your own personal experience with that, but it's more so about having this organ, right? I know you talk about this too with this, the skin is the largest organ of the body, and having it work to its full potential, especially for these tiny little infants that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always like I people forget the skin is an organ. It's an easy thing to forget. We often, some people look at the skin as a canvas, a lot of tattoo artists and stuff, and some people look at it as a way to show yourself off. But at the end of the day, your skin is an organ, much like your heart and your lungs. And the same way as you smoking cigarettes would damage your lungs, using too many ingredients that aren't clean would hurt your skin, right? Like, or if you eat too much high cholesterol food, it's going to affect your heart. Those things are talked about so much. And, weirdly enough, like, same in the skincare space, like, people don't talk about the organ piece. They just talk about how, look, you're going to feel good, just as how McDonald's isn't talking about, like,
Yeah.
or any other fast food place, like, not purposely calling it McDonald's, but just
Yeah.
any fast food chain isn't talking about potential obesity or heart disease or, whatever that might come
Exactly.
from the food. So,
It's interesting too when you even mentioned that your son was given a steroid ointment because I was given one, and actually I still use it on occasion, in which I'm excited to try yours because
yeah.
as many who are listening might have heard, I have psoriatic arthritis, and my process of becoming a mom has been healing my psoriatic arthritis, and I've pretty much done that, but a little bit of what's left over is still some psoriasis spots. But
Yeah.
really, what that cream is doing is thinning your skin. And so, as an adult, I mean, I can kind of deal with it because, like you said, I have many layers now. But those tiny little babies and those newborns, they don't have all those layers. And so, it's just then you're thinking like you're putting that steroid right on that thin layer. And, is it seeping through? I don't know. Maybe we just,
Yeah.
people don't
No, I
think about
mean,
that. But
this was a study that Red Cross did. It's been a few years since the study has come out, but they had done a study on umbilical cords for babies, and I think they found, I believe, I have to double check this, but it was like 100 plus ingredients that were all skincare ingredients in the umbilical cords. Now I don't know how many of them were safe, not safe, but I think it's kind of tells you the importance of the ingredients, that if this is, reaching a child and it is in there, then, and if it's going to be 100, don't you want it to be 100 good ingredients versus 100 I don't know?
right. Wow, that's fascinating. So you're saying the ingredients that women were putting on their body when they were pregnant was going through the umbilical cord and then
Yeah,
they found
that,
it.
I mean, I think
Wow.
they found a lot of other ingredients too, but a big part of it was the personal care products.
And so each of your products have only 3 ingredients. This is
Yes.
mind blowing to me.
So the skin first, like the purpose of the skin as an organ is to protect you. So the same way as you would raise your hand or, put your body into a physical motion to protect yourself if someone coming at you, the skin does that for all the tiny stuff that is living in the world, like the bacteria, etc., etc. And essentially, the layers that your skin has, that we have as adults, make it difficult for these tiny organisms to sneak into our body and cause irritation. For babies, none of that stuff is developed yet. So their skin as an organ doesn't have like all those defense mechanisms to the same degree that our adult skin does. It's
Yeah.
developing, right? So it's a process that's happening, but it's not there when they're born. And so if you use products that have a lot of ingredients, it strips their skin and the moisture that it's in there really fast. For babies, the biggest thing they need in their skin is to stay moisturized. It's the number one thing. You don't need a lot of product, actually. Babies don't even need to have a bath that often. Like, in terms of newborn care for their skin, you want to moisturize and obviously keep their tushy clean because, you know, they're pooping and peeing. But that's really it. Like, and any other product, like, is really just marketing and is aesthetics. Like, babies don't need bubbles, babies don't need fragrances. I mean, this is not just about ingredients. This is in terms of just as simple as what their skin needs is to be moisturized. That's it.
Let's talk about water, because this kind of blew my mind a little bit when I was researching everything for you.
Yeah.
What's gonna shock everybody?
What's going to shock everybody? Yeah. So water, there's some wonderful things about water, but water when it's put in a product is not a wonderful thing. So when you think about water, I'm going to use food as an example because I love food and everybody loves food. But when you pick up a fruit or a vegetable, a lot of that fruit or vegetable has water, you know, like, for example, a pepper or a watermelon, cucumbers, right? And if you think about these vegetables and fruits, if you leave them too long in the fridge, they rot. Because the water in their rots, it attracts the bacteria and yada, 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 right? So when you buy products that have water in them, companies have to put preservatives in them to keep the water fresh. And these preservatives have to be enough and strong enough to keep the 2-3 year shelf life. So that's the one crazy thing, is that water rots, and these preservatives that put in there are sometimes the irritants that, you know, that affect the skin. So that's one big thing. The second big thing about water is that when you buy water-based products, and this is true for your child, this is true for yourself as a mother, usually the formula has 70 to 90% of water, depending on the product. So if you're buying a cleanser, let's say, or a baby wash or whatever it is, for, I don't know, $9.99 or something, you're predominantly, the product that you're buying is equivalent to you buying like a bottle of Poland spring water or something, because there's that much water in it. And the reason companies do that is because it's an easy filler. It gets used up fast, so you buy more frequently, and it reduces potency, right? So like the ingredients that really actually help the skin are very little. And then a lot of times with these products, the oils and butters and things, and because oil and water don't mix, they add other ingredients that help with the mixing. And so because of the water as the main ingredient, so much other stuff is added that the skin doesn't need, that you don't need, just because you're using water.
I was amazed because when I was looking at all of your products, your baby wash / shampoo is powder. And so it doesn't have any water. And I was like, how does this work? And luckily you have a video to explain it, so I'll link that in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, can you just explain maybe the ingredients that you use specifically for that product and how you developed it?
Yeah, so this kind of took inspiration from my Indian roots, and what a lot of Indian mothers do in the US and definitely in India. My mom did it on me. So we use powders. You put the powder in your palm, you add water to it, you make it a paste, you put it on, and you wash it off. But the ingredients in it are, again, inspired by what the baby needs in the bath. So much like adults, if you're in the water for long, you know, you kind of fish out, right? So for babies, you want to keep their skin moisturized. So the two ingredients that I have in there are colloidal oat and arrowroot starch, which help keep the moisture as their baby's having a bath. And colloidal oat actually is really helpful if your baby's having cradle cap or eczema as well. So it's very soothing for them. And then the third ingredient is neem powder, which is a very common ingredient in India and in Ayurveda. And neem is a natural antiseptic. So if there's anything that's, you know, could be irritating your baby's skin, then, you know, it'll help with that in terms of just washing it off and keeping the little one clean and healthy.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, our babies don't really get that dirty. So
No.
for people that might be thinking like, why don't we use soap? It's actually a degreaser, so it's getting
Yes.
rid of that natural moisturizer, right?
Yes. So for for us as adults, this kind of goes back to the skin's functioning as an organ. So the way that the skin protects you is that it produces this oil that travels up the root of the skin and basically sits on your face. So if you've ever had oily skin, for example, and you feel the stickiness around your nose area or your forehead, that's just because your skin naturally produces a lot of this face oil. And for babies, none of this production is there. And so for adults, we need to remove this oil from our skin, so that the oil that the skin's producing 24/7 doesn't get clogged and kind of affect its ability to protect. But for babies, there's no oil. So you don't need this degreaser. Now for us, we need it. We need to remove this oil so that the skin can just continually protect us 24/7. But for babies, they don't have oil. So why are you putting a degreaser? I mean, just to kind of give an idea, what a lot of companies do is they'll put the soap, like the degreaser, but then they'll also add the moisturizing ingredient. So it's stripping it, but it's adding back.
Yes.
But my logic is, why strip it in the first place?
Right? Exactly. I love it. I want to make sure too that you have an opportunity to touch on something that happened to you postpartum.
Yeah.
For women who might be postpartum and going through another challenging experience, can you share what that
Yeah.
was?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I had hell postpartum. Just to give people background at how kind of hell it was, and to kind of reach the point that I had at that point, I had a horrible labor. My water broke too early because we decided to go get pizza and the roads in Brooklyn were bumpy. My water broke too early.
Oh
It
my
broke
gosh.
at the bathroom in the pizza shop. And my doctor told me to enjoy my pizza as it was going to be my last meal. I was not dilated enough, and I basically had to get induced and then had to get epidural. Basically, birth plan went out the window. And then I think I'd already been like I don't know, 18, 19 hours in labor. I don't even know. My son's heartbeat was really high. I had a incredibly high fever, had to go into C-section. Turns out he had pooped inside of me. Like
Oh,
it was complete madness. And then, my milk never came, and that was dramatic. And then I had a spinal leak, which is like
oh
super
my
rare
gosh.
apparently. And so
Yeah.
I had to have coffee because I didn't want to that's a whole other story, but I didn't want to get blood again into my spine. So it affected my breast. Anyways, it was madness. I was in postpartum depression for a little bit. So the last thing that then happened was hair loss. So I was brushing my hair, and I want to say this is like probably at like month 4, 5, something like that. My son is about 4 or 5 months at that point, so we're about 4 or 5 months post baby. So really past the fourth trimester, as someone would say. Um, and I suddenly noticed my hair was falling a lot. So again, I kind of let it go the first 2 or 3 weeks, thinking, it's probably because I'm not eating well, or I'm not sleeping enough, or I don't know, some weird concoction because you have a newborn, nothing is making sense. And I'm not showering either, so it was really weird that my hair is falling. So I asked my mum again, like, okay, I've noticed that my hair is falling a lot. What do I do? And then she says to me, oh yeah, that happens. I'm like, what do you mean, oh yeah, that happens? Like, why isn't anyone telling me about this?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't Google this. I asked some of my mummy friends and Facebook groups, like, have you guys experienced this? And everybody said, yeah, it happens. Don't worry, it'll go away. And that was it. One friend said, oh, you got to have postnatal vitamins. I'm like, really? No one told me about this. When was I supposed to be taking these vitamins?
Yeah.
So we bought postnatal vitamins. Still, nothing's happening. Diet has changed. Taking the vitamins, nothing's happening. So I was like, okay, enough is enough. I don't want to go bald, because at this point, my hair was coming out like the size of a ball of wool. Like, it was
Wow.
enormous. And obviously you guys can't see me, but I have really long, dark brown, black hair. And it's always been very thick. So it was incredibly horrifying to see it thinning to that degree. Again, started looking at ingredients and, what are the ingredients that really help curb hair loss and promote growth. And so I concocted something, having zero hope, literally thinking it cannot get worse. And I oiled my hair. This, again, is a very traditional thing that we do in India. We oil our hair and then I washed it. And when I brushed my hair stopped falling. And it's basically stopped falling since then. I mean, now we're back to the normal shedding course of hair.
Right.
But the ball size that was traumatizing me stopped. And I was shocked. Oftentimes you create stuff and you kind of are just like, I don't know if this is going to work. And that happens a lot. Like, I'd say 9 out of 10 times I'm redoing everything. But for some reason, this was the right mix of ingredients. And I was like, this is unbelievable.
So that's something maybe we can look forward to in the future?
Yeah, no, it is launching. It's launching in about a week or so.
Oh, good. So it'll be out by the time this episode is out.
Yes.
Good. I love it. And just to kind of get an idea, because we mentioned earlier shelf life, and a lot of these big name, large brand companies, they can stay on the shelf for a long time. So typically, how long do your products last?
I want to say forever, but you can't, right? Because oils and butters, they do fade after a certain point, but they don't rot the same way that water products do. So conceivably, you could use the product like for as long as you want. Like there's because there's no preservatives, there's nothing in there that would cause the product to go bad, right? But there have been quite a few recalls that have come out recently. I think there was Jergens that went through a bacteria issue, and then there was another deodorant brand, and it comes down to water, right? Because water rots, and so it basically creates a breeding ground. So with my products, we're not creating an environment for that. Now, if you keep the product in like a closed, like in a normal place without like sun hitting and stuff like that, right. I mean, technically it could last for as long as you need it to last.
There you go. 3 ingredients are all we need. We finally have a solution for baby eczema that we can be proud of, and that can last practically forever. There are many, many options in the realm of skincare, and we're so used to using the popular lotions we see advertised. And there's nothing wrong with that. But have we really thought about what goes into the creation of these products? If you'd like to check out more of Feather and Bone, just click on the link in the show notes and give simple ingredients a try. Especially when our baby has that brand new skin, there's a comfort in knowing that we're doing everything that we can to protect it naturally. If you'd like to learn more natural and holistic remedies for your future baby, then join us in the conversation today in our free Facebook group, Mamas in Training. Just click on the link in the show notes and you will automatically be welcomed into our community. We're already having this conversation over here, and we would love to have you join us. Now remember, we're in this together. If you enjoyed the show today, new episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And help us grow our mama community by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. That way I know how to better serve you. And finally, I would love to connect on Instagram. You can find me at Mamas in Training Pod. That's MAMAS in Training POD. For Mamas in Training, I'm Jessica Lorian. We're in this together.